Hello and welcome to the Mandarin training. I'm going to be training you on not all the features, but the most important features of M5. So let's begin the training. First thing I want to show you is the filters that you can get. When you do a search, you get these filters on the left. For example, this shows you I have 8 ebooks and I have 2 music CDs. So what happens is when you click on one of the squares, like the music CD, it will take away all the other types of books and leave only the music CDs available. And if I uncheck, it puts all the books back. And if I want to see all the ebooks, I just click there and I see just the ebooks. So those are the filters. Another thing I want to show you as well is you'll notice that when you search, it knows what items you have in the system, and it gives you a drop-down of selections. So I can choose a selection, and it will bring up those types of books. The other thing I wanted to show you in cataloging is you have these bulletin board buttons. And these buttons are just link buttons. So, for example, if I click News, it takes me to a news site. Or if I click on Web Search, it takes me to the Google search site. You can change the names of these buttons and change where they link, as well as you can change these names as well. You can have Visual Search say something else or recommended reading, and I'll show you how to do all that when we get into setup. So now I'm going to go over the Visual Search buttons for you. When you click here, the buttons will expand. And there's 3 types of buttons you can create here. You can create a topic button, which is like a folder. So for example, chemistry is a topic button. If I click on it, it just brings you into where there's more buttons under chemistry. So think of the topic button as a folder. Another type of button you could create is a query button, which allows you to search for items in the database. So for example, if I click on space travel, if I have an item with the subject space travel, it would have brought it up. And that's a query. And the third type of button you can create is a link button, which you can link to different sites. So for example, if I click on this button here, it brings me to the Google search page. And I'll show you how to do those buttons when I get in the setup. Another thing you can do is recommended reading. Here you can choose books that you want to recommend to people. And if someone clicks on a title, for example, it will take you right to that book. All right. And then I want to show you this. You have a home button and a reset button. Both these buttons do exactly the same thing. The only difference is when you click reset, it will sign you out. And when you click home, it will not. So when I click home, it just brings you back to the default web page. And here you have the gallery, where when you arrow through, you can see the different pictures that I have added to the gallery. Another thing I wanted to show you is down here you got your flags, which allow you to choose the different languages. And then here you have the contact your librarian. So if you click this, you put in your email address, put in a subject, put in a message, and then if you click send, this message will be sent to the librarian, and I'll show you in setup what determines where that message will be sent. Another thing is here, when you choose your reading programs, you've got your Lexile, your Fountain and Pinnell, your Accelerator Reader, your reading counts. So just as an example, if I chose Lexile, you can move these sliding bars here and get different levels. And it doesn't look like it, but if you click in here, you can also type your values as well. And then when you search, you get a range of items that fall within the range you have set here. I'm going to click the home button again. Another thing I wanted to show you here is how to add a record manually. So first thing is you have to sign in. Now before I sign in, I want to show you something that's you should know about enhanced search. Notice when you click enhanced search, you have one long box going across. But when you sign in, which I'm doing now, you will notice now when I click enhanced search, you still have this long box, but you have this little box on the right. And what the purpose of this little box is you will notice when you click here, you have so many selections that you can choose from. But let's say there's a field you want to search that's not available in this drop-down. Well, I happen to know that the 852A is the location field. So if I put 852 pound A here and then type in a value in this box, and I click search, it will bring up all items that have the word test in the 852A field. So what's happening now is that instead of searching for subject, I'm searching for this right here, 852A instead. So just think of it this way. When you type a value in this box, it turns off whatever you have selected over here. And then, of course, you got your ors and your ands. You could do more sophisticated searches. And also you have drop-downs here too, which doesn't give you as many options as the enhanced search, but you can also choose options here as well. I want to show you how to add a record manually. To add a record manually, you will click the down arrow here and you will choose Add Record. And then you get the template to come up. So I can add a new record here, and I'll put a title. And then if I go down here, and I'll put in a barcode, and then I'll give it a classification number. So what's very important to know is when you're adding a bib, if you want a holding to be created at the same time that you save the bib, you must fill in the barcode field and the class number field, which is the 852H field. Typically in the class number field, you would put FIC, for example, if it's a fiction book, or if it's nonfiction, you would put a Dewey number like I put here. And then down here, you can choose the group that you want to assign the item to, and I'm going to choose General Collection. And then when you click Save, the record's created. And you'll notice it says 1 of 1 because I have a holding. If I did not have a holding, this should be red and it would say 0 of 0. To see the holding, you will click on the title and then you would see the holding here. Think of a holding as a placeholder. For example, if I had 5 copies of the same book, I would have one bib, which is this right here. This is the bib. And then when I click on the title, I would have 5 holdings listed here because I had 5 copies of that book. One thing I want to show you here also is how to add another holding. If I wanted to add another holding to this bib because I have another copy, I would click Add Holding. And then I would put in a barcode here. And the class number gets filled in automatically because it knows what it was. And then when I click Save, you will notice now you have 2 holdings. There might be an occasion where you might want to add lots of holdings, and you don't want to keep clicking Add Holdings lots of times. An example of this could be an equipment item. For example, you could have 100 calculators, and you would create one bib that's called Calculator, and then you would add 100 holdings to the calculator. Well, a quick way of doing this is you can edit any of these bibs here attached to any of these holdings, attached to the bib. So I can click here, Edit Holding. And then you have this feature down here, Generate Holdings. So if I click here, for example, and I'll just create 10 holdings. So if I put 10 here, I will put the barcode I want it to start at, and I'm going to increment by 1. Now, if the barcode started with letters, I would put the letters in the BC prefix field, but I'm not going to do that. So what's going to happen is it's going to create 10 holdings starting at 9,000, and it's going to increment the barcode by 1 as it's creating it. So now when I click Save, it created all those holdings for me. Much easier than having to click Add Holding 10 times. So that could be a very useful feature when you're adding a lot of holdings to a bib. And that's how you create a record manually. Now, another feature I want to show you as well is if you edit one of the holdings, you can print a barcode directly from where you edited the record. So this is nice, so you can print the barcodes as you're creating them. So if I click Print Barcode, you get this sheet of paper, which is what you would see if you had the labels. And I can click on a specific label, and it will print the barcode on that label. So I'm going to click on this label here, and there you go. It printed the barcode to that specific label. And the same thing, it goes for spy labels. If I click here, Click on a specific label, and there is the Dewey number that I put in. Another thing that's important here is you have two types of editors. You have the advanced editor, which we're in right now, and then you have the basic editor, which is here. Let me show you what that looks like when you're dealing with bibs. So right now, I'm going to edit this bib. So right now, I'm in the advanced editor. If I click basic editor, you get the names of the fields, but you'll notice you can't add fields in here. You can't add them. So to add fields to an existing template, you have to go to advanced editor, and then if you want to add a subfield, I could click here, insert subfield, and I could add a K, for example, and then fill in the value for K right here. If you want to add a field, you can click insert field, and then you will notice here it's got the names next to each field. So insert field can be useful if you want to know what a certain field stands for, because a lot of people see numbers, but they don't know what those numbers mean. So if you want to know what a certain field means, click insert field and you see the names here. So for example, if I wanted to insert the 520 field, I can go down here, choose 520, click OK. Then it brings the subfields that belong to 520. And if I choose, let's say, A, click OK, I just added the A subfield to the 520 field. So now I got the 520 showing right there. Another thing that's very important here about these templates is sometimes when you go to add a record, the template might not contain all the fields you want. For example, if I go here and I click Add Record, you'll notice that also when you click Add Record, you always get to the basic editor. Whereas when you edit a record, it always takes you to the advanced editor. So here I clicked Add Record. So let's say there's a field here that's missing. You would have to go to the advanced editor, and then you would have to insert the field that you want. You can type in here also if you don't want to select it. And then I'll choose A, and now I insert that field. But you don't want to have to insert the field every single time you're going to add a record. You would like that field to be there permanently. So what you can do is you can take away fields here you don't want. So I can go here and I can delete, or if you want to delete, you can also click the X here. So once you get the template looking exactly the way you want, you switch back to Basic Editor, and then you choose Save as Template, and then I can either leave the template name like it is and click OK, and it'll override the existing template that's there, or I can give it a completely different name, click OK, and then it will save that template. So now you will notice then, when I go back here and I go back to Add Record, you will notice that it will have, here it is right here, map 123. That's the template that I have just created, that custom template. So this could be very useful for you to create the templates that you need. So that's a very nice feature there. Another feature I wanted to show you is that's how you add records manually. If you wanted to add a record from Library of Congress, which is what most of you might do, is you'll go to Record Fetch. And you can do all kinds of searches here. You can put the ISBN number, or you can put a title. So I'll put a title and I'll put in dogs and click Search. And then it brought me a bunch of records. And let's say I want to add this record to my database. Very simple. All you do is click the down arrow, choose Library, click Add Record. One record added. So there's the bib I just added from the Library of Congress. Notice it says 0 of 0 available, because when you add a record for the Library of Congress, it will not create a holding for you. So now you have to add a holding. There's two ways to do this. One is you can click on the title, and then you can, or not click on the title, sorry. You will edit the bib, And then you will go down here and you will fill in the barcode. And then you will put a Dewey number here. And then you will save the record, and then a holding will be created at the same time. Now, one thing that's important I want to tell you is you can also have M5 set up to automatically generate barcodes. Now, one thing you should know is when you add a record from the Library of Congress by doing a record fetch and you click on the title, a barcode, I'm sorry, not click on the title, when you edit the title, the bib, a barcode will not be put into the barcode field for you automatically. So in this situation, when you have the system set to generate barcodes automatically for you, the proper way to do this is you will click on the title and you will add the holding from here, and then you would fill in the reason why you would click add holding from here, I want to show you this, is because notice when I click add holding, it fills in the barcode for you automatically. It knows what barcode is next. Whereas if you would have clicked on the title, notice, I keep saying click on the title. If you would have edited the bib, notice that when you scroll down, the 852 field doesn't have the barcode there, so you'd have to guess what it is. But if I instead clicked on the title and went to this detail screen and click add holding, then it fills it in for you automatically. Okay? But if you don't have the system turned on where it automatically generates barcodes, then you would want to do it this way. You would want to edit the bib, and then you'd want to scroll down here, and then you would fill in the barcode field because it's not going to fill it in anyway. And I'll put in a barcode. And then, of course, I got to fill in the classification number area. Remember what I said earlier is that you must fill in the H field and the barcode field, and the H is known as the class field, in order for a holding to be created at the same time you save the bib. So now when I click save, you'll notice it says 1 of 1 because a holding was created at the same time I have saved the bib. Now, if you would have, instead of clicked on the title and added the holding here, then after you would have typed in the H field here, you would have had to go back and click return to search results and edit the bib and fill in the class number there as well, so that way you would have it in both the bib and the holding. It's important to have it in the bib because after you do a search, you will see the call number here. If it wasn't the bib, you wouldn't see this. So that's important. Okay? And you can add different record fetches to here. For example, you will see I added this one right here to my record fetch. And I'll show you how to do that when we get in the setup. And if anybody's interested in getting a PDF file with all the sites that you can add, you can email us to support@mlasolutions.com, support@mlasolutions.com, and we can send you that list. Okay? So now I want to show you the options that you have in cataloging tools. So these are the options you have, and I'm going to show you first how to import a file. So first you got to choose the table name. I'm going to choose bibliographic, and then I'm going to go here and click on the folder, and I'm going to navigate to where the file is that I want to import. So I'm going to go here, and I have a file called nursing, and it's right there now, and I'm going to upload it. And there is nursing. So now if you want to import it, all you do is you click import next to the file, and then you get the list of items that are inside the file. You click next, and then you come to this screen. Now these boxes allow you to see what's in the different fields. For example, I know 245 is the title field, and if I click on it, I get the title information. And if I click on this arrow here, I can go through and look at the title information. Or for example, if I click 650, I see the subject information. Now this is a marked file, so notice that all the fields are already mapped. If this was a delimited file, these boxes would be empty, and you'd have to click here on one of them, and you have to tell it where to map the value to get it into a specific field. Now one thing that's important I want you to know is whenever you're importing, always look to see if there's an 852 field. Because if there's not an 852 field and you import the records, then a holding will not be created. All you will get is just the bib record. You will have to go back later and manually add the holdings to the bibs. But since this file has an 852 field, holdings will be created at the time of import. You'll notice that the P field here, it's got the barcode, it's got the H field, which is the class number, it's got a value in there. So holdings will be created while I'm importing. So now I'm going to click Next. I'm going to choose the group I want the items to belong to, and then I'm going to click Finish. Now, notice I got a split screen. You will only get the split screen if you're importing a record that already exists in the system. It found a duplicated bib. The bib on the left is the bib from the file. The bib on the right is the bib that's already in the database. You have to decide now what you want to do. You got 4 options. You could choose Save Existing, which means that this bib here on the right will be saved, and then any holdings that need to be added will be added to the existing bib. And then you got Replace Existing, which means that this bib here on the left that's in the file will override the bib on the right, and then the holdings will be added to that bib. You also have Import. Import will save this bib that's already in the system, import this bib from the file, and now you will have 2 bibs in the system exactly the same, and the holdings will be added to the new bib that you imported. And then the other option is Do Not Import, which means it'll skip over this and then do the next record. So if I click Save Existing, I just imported that record, but now I've found another duplicate. So now I have to choose an option I want again. But you might not want to keep doing that, because if you had 50 duplicates, it could be a pain having to click these every single time. So to get around that, you click Don't Show This Window Again. And then when you click a button here, next time it encounters this issue, it will remember the button you clicked on, and it will implement that button. So I'm going to choose Save Existing, and now it's counting, it's importing those records, and now it's done. I have just imported those nursing records. Now I want to show you how to export. You might want to export because you might want to get records from our system to another system. Our system exports into a marked file. Another reason why you might want to export is I had a customer that accidentally imported or added records to their equipment database. They didn't want the records in there. They accidentally added equipment items into their library database, and they didn't want the equipment items in their library database. So to fix that, I had to export their items out and then delete and purge those items from the library database and then import them into the proper database they wanted, which was the equipment database. So how you do this is you just do a search, and you can do all kinds of searches there and select the items that you want to export, or you can select all of them. So now I selected these 4, and I click Next, and then I have to give it a file name. And notice I put a .text at the end. It says it right here, include text. So you must do that. You must include txt as an extension. And then when I click Finish, it exports those records, shows you the file, and then if you click on the file, well, let's do that again. I'm not sure why that happened, but this is what happens sometimes. So we'll export again. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to give it a different file name. And I'm going to click Finish. So now we have a file name here, and if I click it, see now when I click on the file name, it allows you to save the file. So I can save this file to my computer if I want to. The other option is the ISBN fetch. This here you don't have to worry about because record fetch replaces this. This was made before record fetch existed, so you don't have to worry about this. Find and replace. This is useful because it can be used in many ways. For example, if I want to search all the titles, I get a list of my books, and if I want to print this, I can choose print here, and then you get yourself a nice report like this right here that you can print. So the nice thing about this is you could do all kinds of different searches, which means you can get all kinds of different results and then print the report that you want. So that's one nice thing you can do here. Another nice thing you can do here in the Find and Replace, it's the only place where you can purge a record directly without having to delete it. So to purge a bib, for example, because I searched for bibs, is you would select the bib you want, you would choose purge, and when I purge, it will get rid of not only the bib, but all the holdings that belong to that bib. The difference between delete and purge is delete will delete the record and mark it red, but the record will still be in the database, where purge will remove the record from the database completely. All right, you can also search for holdings. So if I search for holdings, I can go here and purge holdings. Now, one thing you have to be careful of is some bibs might have just one holding. So if you purge the only holding that belongs to that bib, you'll be left over with an empty bib. You might not want that. You might want that bib to be deleted, to be marked as deleted, since you've deleted the last holding that belongs to the bib. To do that, you must go over here. You got to go to Cataloging, Circulation, Options, click the circle for Miscellaneous Settings, and make sure Delete Bibliographic when last holding is deleted is checked. This is not checked by default. By having this checked, when you delete the last holding that belongs to a bib, the bib will be deleted. Now let's go back to Cataloging Tools and back to Find and Replace. So another thing that a lot of librarians will do is they'll click Upload Barcodes. You can upload them from a file, or what most librarians will do is they'll have a cart. They'll have a cart of books, they'll bring them over, and then they'll scan the barcodes in, and then they'll upload them. And then once they scan the barcodes in, they can select all, and then purge all the holdings from the database. And then, like I said, if you had that option on where it will delete the bib when it removes the last holding, it'll delete the bib as well. Another thing I want to show you that you get, that you only get when you search for bibs, is you will get this merge buttons. The purpose of these merge buttons is to move holdings from one bib to another. An example of why you might want to do this is usually when you have 5 copies of a book, you're going to create one bib and you're going to add 5 holdings to the bib. Some librarians will make a mistake, and instead of adding 5 holdings to a bib, they'll create 5 bibs and have 1 holding attached to each one of those bibs. To fix that problem, you will choose the bibs that you want to move the holdings from, and then you will click Merge next to the record you want to move those holdings to. So I'm going to take the holdings from these 3 records, and I'm going to move them to this record called Abiyoyo. So when I click Merge, it just merged those holdings to Abiyoyo. And then you will notice when I go to the next page that it deleted the bibs that I took the holdings out of because there's no more holdings left in these bibs. And then what you could do also in this section is you can click Search for Bibs Without Holdings. So if I click that, it will list only the bibs without a holding, because you might want to get rid of bibs in your system that have the holdings, because you can't really loan them out. So then after you find them, you will select them all and click Purge. Now, this option should not find any bibs that are ebooks, because typically ebooks don't have holdings attached, and you want to keep them that way because you don't loan ebooks. So in this case, ebooks should not show up when you click this button. Okay? Let's see. The next thing I want to show you is collections. Collections is very useful if you want to add a bunch of items to a certain group. And this could be useful if you're going to make a class project, for example. So if you make a certain project, you might want a certain class to only be able to select books that you want for that particular project. So how to create a collection is you click New, and then you give it a name here. And I'm just going to call this class 20,000. Yeah. And then if I click Save, you'll notice now I have a class called 20,000. Now I want to add books to it. So I click here on this pen, and then I click Upload. And you can do it by files, or you can scan in the barcodes. Whoop. And then I'll click Upload. So now I'm adding these items to the class 20,000. And then when I click Save, if I go back and edit that collection, it will have those items attached to that collection. Now, one thing you should know is when you add books to a collection, it'll have the name of the collection in the 960A field of the bib record. And that's very important when you do a search. And I'm going to show you how useful this is when we get into the visual search buttons, how useful this can be. And then here you got picture upload, where you can upload pictures to items. Here you got your message management, where you can add patron or item messages. So I'm going to add a patron message, and I'm going to type, do not loan items to this person. Then if I click add, it added the message here, and I'm going to show you when we get into circulation how you attach a message to a patron. All right, so that completes all the options in the cataloging tools. There's one more option here I want to show you, and that's there's two more options. One is when you're signed into cataloging, you're going to have this I here. This is our library assistant, and when you click this, it's going to take you to this page here, and this explains things. It's got videos that teach you about things. It's got our user's manual, and you can also click here to see the latest version of M5, and it shows you what has been enhanced in that version. So this would be very useful to possibly answer questions that you might have. And then this is your Enter setup. And to get in the setup, you type admin, and then you type Boca space Ratan. Now, one thing I want you to know is that even though you might have an admin and Boca space Ratan login here to get into here, it's not the same person as the admin Boca Ratan here. This login here is not in this area here. They do not have anything to do with each other. So now when I log in, you get this screen here, which is the server configuration. You don't have to worry about the screen. We fill that in for you. Then you got your library settings. Here you can put in the name of your library. You can give it a subtitle. And then here is the email that contact your librarian will be sent to. So this is where you would put that email in. And you can also change the logo. You can browse for the logo you want, upload it, and change the logo. Then you got your options. All kinds of things you can do here. I'm not going to cover them all. But some of the things you could do, for example, is you can turn off visual search if you want, change that on to off. Turn off your gallery, turn off your recommended reading. If you don't want your Lexile, Fountain Pinnell, you could turn those off. Remember how I told you you can change the names of the visual search? You do that right here. So here's the visual search. If you want to say something else, just type in what you want to say in this box. Or you could change the name of recommended reading. So when you type something in this box, that name will show up instead. Other things you can do also is after you do a search, by default, your items will show in bibliographic view. You could change the default to any one of these other views if you want to. Or after a search, the results are unsorted. If you want the results to instead sort by title after a search, you could change it here and have it sort by title. And then you just go down and save your settings. That's some of the things you could do in options. Here you got style, and here you could change the background of your page. Right now mine's set for world, which is blue and shows the globe, but you could choose one of these other options if you want to change the background image. Here is where you change the login and password. By default, it's set for admin as the login, Boker space return for the password. Most of the times we recommend you do not change the password here, because if you forget the password, we won't be able to get in to help you, and then we'll have to go and replace a file on your system to reset that login. Here is record icons. This is what determines what icons show. So for example, for this icon to show right here, where my mouse is, you would have to have in the 007 field, position 0 equal to a V, and the 007 field, position 4 equal to a V. To show you what I mean by that, let me bring up a record for you so that makes more sense. So for example, if I edit this record here, you can see the 007 field's not there, so I'm going to insert it. And now if I go here, this is the 004, if I 00 field, and I put a V, 04 I put a V. So when I say the 007 field, position 0 has to be a V, and position 4 has to be a V, this is what I mean. So if I save this book right now, that icon I showed you will show. So let me go back to the setup here. All right, so this icon shows if it meets this criteria. Now, you can add additional icons. You can go down here and add another one. You only have to fill in the opaque field. Don't worry about the XPath. And you can click here to create a new icon. And just use this as your guide and put the what you need here for the icon to show. And then you can click here to browse for your icon, upload it, and save it. So you can add your own icons as well. Here. And let's see, the other thing is the Z3950 searches. This is what controls your record fetch. By default, the system comes and searches for the Library of Congress. I added this one in myself. Whenever you add a value in here that you want to search for, you must have the host information, you must have the port, and you must have the database information. Usually most sites don't require a username and password. So just the host, the port, and the database name is all you need. And plus you want to give it a name here. You can label it wherever you want. Click Save, and now you added another Z3950 record fetch to your system. Here's your visual search buttons I was telling you about. Let me show you what the different buttons look like. This here is a topic button. So if you look at it, remember a topic button is just a folder. All you do is put the name here. That's all it is. That's the topic button. Okay? If you want to look at it what a query button is, this is a query button. Looks just like a search that you would do in M5. So this one is searching for subject space travel. And if you click the button, if you had a book called Space Travel as a subject, it would bring up a list of those items. And the third type of button is the link button, which I created here. So if you look at this link button, it just has a web page in here. If you click this button, it takes you to the Google. Now I'm going to show you how important that collection feature was I showed you in cataloging tools. So remember I created a class called class 20,000. So if I want to do a create new link, I click create new link here. I scroll down. Here's the new link. I click here, go to modify. I'm going to browse for an image. You always want to browse for the image first, because if you fill in those fields and then add an image, it's going to erase the fields. So let's see, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my Patreon pictures, and then I'll add a picture here. And then I'll give it, I'm sorry, I created the wrong button. Let's go back to Visual Search. I want to do a query button. So let me show you then. I can show you how you can delete one now. So I created the wrong button. I'm going to click delete, and it's gone. Say OK, gone. Now I'm going to create the correct button. I'm going to go here, and I am going to create a new query. So now I'm going to click modify. I'm going to browse for the picture again. I'm going to add that picture. upload it. There's the picture. I'm going to give it name. And remember I told you that the 960A, I believe it is, will contain the value of the collection that you created. So now when I save this query, there it is right there. If I now go back to the site and go into my site here, now if I click here and expand it and go to that query I just created and click it, hold on. Let's go back now. You get a chance now to go back to cataloging tools. Let's make sure I had the right field. 960A, class 20,000. Let's make sure my items are attached to it. It is. So now let's go back to setup. And let's go back to Visual Search and look at that class 20,000. I got 960. Oh, I forgot the pound sign. You must put a pound sign always. Okay, so I'm going to put the pound sign, and then we're going to click Save, and now we're going to go back, and now it should work. So we go to my site, and I'm going to click on the here to expand it, scroll down, click on that query, and there it brought up the books. So it brought up the books that belong to the class 20,000 collection. So that means these books are the only books that the students are supposed to use for their class assignment. So that's why it's important. And by the way, for all these visual search buttons, you can delete all of them. You don't have to keep any of them. You can just go and add your own buttons if you want to. So you can get looking exactly the way you want. Here's the bulletin board buttons I was telling you about, those 4 buttons going across. So if you wanted to change the names of the buttons, you would change it here in the English area. You can call the buttons whatever you want. And you could see here, for example, this news button that we clicked on took us to this website right here. And that's all there is to creating the buttons. Here you got your record templates. Usually you won't have to go in here. Usually this is set the way most people want it. If you ever, for example, wanted to default to the map template, you can click map and save the results. And then you will default to the map template when you go to add an item. But usually you won't have to go in here at all. And then here you got your recommended reading. So I wanted to show you how you can add a recommended reading item here. So I'm going to delete this item. And now I'm going to create a new recommended reading item. I'm going to type in the ISBN number. Notice when I click there, this window comes up here. So now I'm going to put in the ISBN number. And if I type it right, it fills in the rest of the fields because it got it from that book. And all you do now is you click Save. And now I just added an item to my recommended reading. And then for gallery images, it's very simple. If you want to add another gallery image, you just click Create New Item. You browse to the picture you want, and then you find the picture, upload it, and then the picture will show. And then you save the image. Save the file here. All right, so that's all the settings in the setup area. Now we're going to go and talk about circulation. So let's go into there. So I'm going to sign back into the system. And I'm going to click on circulation. So to load an item, you put in the patron's barcode, Or you can put the patron's name, and then you put the item barcode, and you have an item that was loaned. That's all you do. One thing you should know is the system's always looking for the patron barcode first and the item barcode second. So if I clear the display now and I put a barcode of an item in, I will get this message right here. So always put a patron barcode first. All right? And this is where you return items. If I click on return, I could scan items one after the other. So for example, if I want to return that item 1 I loaned, I press enter and it returns it. I also could have done this as well. I also could have gone down here. I could have selected the item, clicked here, and I could have returned here, and it would have returned this item. You can also return items here. You can renew items as well. You do the exact same thing I did when I loaned it, except it's a renew. And then you can also reserve items. So for example, if a book is checked out and a patron wants it, you can reserve it for that patron. And then when the book's returned, that patron should get an email address as long as they have an email in their 110M field. And then they'll get an email saying the book is back in the library and it's on hold. So their reserve will change into a hold. And the book will be behind the counter. And the patron will come in, ask for the book. You give the patron the book. And then when you go to loan that book, that hold that belongs to that patron will now change to a loan. You can also do bookings. Bookings is used if you want to check out items in the library, for example, a certain time range. So if I, for example, put in barcode 4, go to hourly, select that, and go to OK. I'm sorry, let's do that one more time. Hourly. Instead of doing OK, I'm going to click Add and click OK. And now if I go back, you will see it loaned an item with a time range there. That's booking. Status is used, for example, if you want to bring an item up. Like remember, if this screen is cleared, you can't type an item barcode. The only time you can type an item barcode if you're not in status mode, if a patron barcode is up first. So if I want to see an item barcode, I bring it up there, and then you can do all kinds of things here. Once the item is up, you can create a bib record, you can edit a bib, create a new holding, edit a holding. I can look at the history of the item. So if I click here, I can see that this item was loaned to this patron in the past. Okay, and you can also bring up patrons in status mode as well. And then I can look at the patron history. Let's see. Let me return this item. So let's see. Clear the screen. I must have a feature turned off for the patron history, but usually you would see it here. You would choose the patron history, and then you could see all the items that that patron had checked out in the past. While we're here, let me show you how you attach a message to a patron. So if I click Messages, you then click Messages here. Here's the message that I created earlier. So attach this message to this patron, I would click here on this face and attach the message and then go back. Now if I bring up this patron, you will see you get this message, do not loan items to this patron. So the librarian will know that they shouldn't loan any more items to this person. And that's the messages. Also, you could do a self-check. This is for if you want patrons to check out items themselves. So if I click self-check, you will notice that the only thing you can do here is self-check and self-return. You can't do anything else. So this is where patrons can put their patron barcode in. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's go back in again. Go to circulation, and I'll go to self-check. I'll put in a patron. And then if I want to put an item, I just check that item out to myself. If I want to return an item, I go to self-return. Very important you put an item in that is actually checked out. And there it is. And you can't get out of the screen. You're locked in it. The only way to get out is you got to close it. And then if I go back in again, now you can also do self-return. Same thing, except the patrons can, you just have the return option, okay? In-house, that is to check items out if you want to keep track of items that are being taken off the shelf. This transaction is not attached to any patron. All you do is you put the item barcode in there. You just put a barcode and that's it. I just did an in-house transaction for that barcode. Put another one, just did an in-house for that barcode. And then there's a report you can run that would show you the in-house transactions that you did. Now here, you got library transactions. Before I do that, I want to show you something here that's very important. So here, you got change date. One reason why you might want to use this change date option is, for example, your internet might be down. You might not be able to connect to us and use the system because of that. In that case, you will take a pad and paper and you will be writing your transactions down on a piece of paper. Let's say tomorrow your internet works again, and now you want to put those transactions into the system. So to do that, you want to make sure that when you load them, it looks like they were loaded yesterday, because that's the actual day that you did the transaction. So you click change date, and this pop-up comes up. Make sure you don't have any pop-up blockers on your browser. If you do, it won't show this. All right, and I can change this date to yesterday's date if I want to. But I'm going to go back further because I want to make an overdue. I'm going to make this item look like it was done on August 6th. And I'm going to click OK. And now I have, I'm now going to load an item. And now, look, you see, August 6th. It looks like it was due August 6th. And one thing also I want to show you here is, for some reason, if you do a loan and the due date is not the correct due date, you can change it. You can just click on the due date and change it to what you want. So let's see. I don't want to change that one. I'll do. Well, you can't do that because that's a booking. I'll do another transaction. So if I want to change the due date of this, I can just click on that, make it due the 31st, and now it's due August 31st. So you can change it. So now let's go to library transactions. Library transaction is useful in a lot of ways. For example, you can create all kinds of different reports in this library transactions area. So for example, let's say a teacher came to you and they said they wanted to see all the books that are currently checked out for their class. Well, one thing you should know is when you go to library transactions, the only transactions you're going to see here are items that are currently checked out. If an item is not checked out, it will not show here. So to see items checked out for that teacher, you can go here, filter by the teacher, put the teacher's name in, and then you will get only the items that are out for that teacher, and then you can go here and click print, and then you can hand this report to the teacher. And there's a lot of different ways you can filter. You can filter by grade, home, teacher, name, patron barcode, holding title, holding barcode, call number. You can also filter by the group. I can bring up all items that are currently checked out to a specific group. Or I can filter also by just overdues. If I go here and do overdue loans all, I can see just the overdues. Now notice when you choose overdue loans all, you get this send notification button here. So if I click send notification, it's going to send this message to all the patrons that have an overdue that have an email address in their 110M field. You don't have to keep this message. You can delete this and you could type in the message you want. Or if you want your own personal message to come up all the time by default, you can contact us here and we can put a custom message in for you. And you don't have to send it to all patrons. I could just filter this by a certain patron and then send notification, and then it'll send an email only to that specific patron. And then you can also sort. So for example, if I list all again, you can sort. So if I click this, notice how it sorts by the call number, or I can sort it by the title. So you can sort it the way you want and then print it out. So this is very useful in seeing items that are currently checked out. You can make all kinds of reports using this feature, and you can send emails from here, and you can send emails for fines as well. Okay, so that is the library transactions feature. One thing I also want to show you here that's very important is this change date feature. Usually when you loan an item, it will always look at the loan period you have set for the item group that the item belongs to. So if you have a loan period of 14 days and you loan an item, it will be due 14 days from today. Sometimes though, you might want to make items due on a specific date. So I can click here, choose Use Session Due Date, click the down arrow, choose a due date I want, November 15th, and now every item I loan will be due on November 15th. And to turn that feature off, you just uncheck it. And then you got your options feature. Here is where your schedule is. So if you click on schedule, by default it's set to due time as the closing time on the day the item is due, and make item due on the first open day that follows the close day. If you click here, you got your schedule. Shows you the days you're open and closed, the time you're open, the time you're closed. You've got your holidays and exceptions where you can put your Christmas and your Thanksgiving. And then you got global recalls. Let me explain what global recalls is. Global recalls guarantees that you will not have an item due after the global recall date. So for example, here I have the global recall date set for June 14th. So let's say I have a 2-week loan period and I loan a book today. Nothing will happen. My book will be due 14 days from today. But let's say it's June 12th and you want to loan an item that's got a 2-week loan period on June 12th. What will happen is when you go to loan the item, it's going to run into this brick wall, this June 14th. It's not going to let it be due 14 days from today. It's going to force the item to be due on June 14th. So that way, you can always set this date for the last day that you want to make sure all items are due back by. And that's what the global recall date is. Another feature you have here in circulation options is group notifications. You click here, and you can choose the group you want to do, and you put in your subject, your message, send notification, and every single person that belongs to that group, as long as they have an email address in the 110M field, will get that message. And then you've got your options here. If you go here and click the circle, you got your return and renewal options. You've got here your miscellaneous options. For example, if you have speakers connected to your computer, you can enable sound, and then when you loan an item, the computer will say the word loan. Or you can tell it if you want to print checkout transactions receipts. So you got your options in there. All right, so that completes what I wanted to show you in circulation. One thing I want to show you though also is if you go back to cataloging, patrons can look at books they have out. For example, if they just go here and put their barcode number, leave the password blank, and sign in, they can click on My Account. And if they scroll down, they can see the items they currently have out. All right, so that's very useful if they want to see their own items that they currently have out. So now I'm going to sign back in, and I'm going to show you groups. We're going to go to groups now. And here you got patron groups and item groups. So for example, if I click on General Collection, you click circulation periods, you can see the different periods. We got the fines you can set up here. You got your loan period of 14 days, your new period, you got your grace period. What a grace period is, for example, if I have a book that's overdue, as long as I return the book within 7 days after it's overdue, a fine will not be generated. But if I return the book on the 8th day, then they'll have a fine generated for all the 7 days previous. Okay? And so this is where you could set all your different periods for the group. And then if you click members, you can see who belongs, what items belong to this group. And if you want to move an item to a different group, it's very simple. You just click on the item, click here to the group you want it to go to, click move to, and then the item will go to that group. Let's see what else. I'm going to show you now the patron groups. So now if we go to patron groups, click here, you can give the patrons different rights. For example, the administrators groups has rights to do all these different things because they're all checked. They can do all these different functions. If you go to circulation limits, they can have as many books loaned to them as they want. Circulation access, they can do all these things in circulation. That means they have access to circulation. They can do all these options. You might have someone that belongs to the library assistant group, and you might want them to do just loans, nothing else. In that case, you would uncheck all these boxes, just leave the loan box checked, and all they can do is loans. You got your OPEC options, you got your cataloging. If you want to have access to be able to do cataloging, you can turn on what features you want them to do. And then you got the item group overrides. Let me explain to you what this is. It's very important. Item group overrides is used if you want people that belong to a certain group to have a different loan period than everybody else. For example, if the general collection has a loan period of 14 days, but I want the people that belong to the administrators group to have a loan period of 7 days, you would check the box here, you will click the pen, you would change this to 7 days, and then I will click apply, OK, apply, and OK, and then we'll go back, make sure it took, and then we'll go back to item group overrides, and there, as you can see, it took. So this is overriding the 14 days that's set in the general collection group, and for these people only that belong to administrators, if I loan any items that belong to the general collection group to these people in the administrators group, the item will be due 7 days from today. But if I loan an item from the general collection group to any of these other patron groups, like librarians or patrons, it'll be due 14 days from today. All right? Let's see. So that is the group. So I want to show you how you can create a patron group or an item group. We'll create an item group. So if I go here, I'll choose item group, click new. It puts the new item group 1 here. I edit the group. I give it a name that I want. I can put ebooks, for example. And then if I click apply and OK, I have an ebook group here. And now I can edit it, go to circulation periods, and I can set the settings the way I want to. Now we're going to go to reports. So these are your reports, and I'm going to show you how you can run a report. So we're going to run a report. For example, I'll do labels, and we'll do sequence of barcodes. It says, please enter the first barcode. I'm going to put 1. I'm going to click OK, and it says, please enter the number of barcodes. I'll put 30, and then I'll click OK. And then here we get to the next screen. Let me explain to you what these are. If I click Save in my reports and submit the report, it will save not the report results, but the actual report itself will be saved to my reports. And when it's saved to my reports, only you will see that report. You have to be logged in as you. The advantage of saving the report is that you will notice when I ran the report, I had to put in the barcode number I start at, and I had to put in how many I wanted. Well, now if you went to save to my reports over here, my reports, and ran it from there, those parameters that I put in, which is the starting barcode and how many I wanted, are already built into the report. So if you ran that report, it'll just automatically print barcodes starting at 1 and print 20 barcodes. So that could be useful, for example, if you're printing a patron list and you always find yourself choosing the sort by grade option. Well, now you can just sort it by grade, save it in My Reports, and next time when you run it, you don't have to choose sort it by grade. It'll automatically sort by grade because it'll have the parameters already built into that report. Common Report is the same as My Report. The only difference is everybody can see the reports in Common Report. So if you want to share your reports with other people, you'll put it in Common Reports. If you put in an email address here and you submit the report, you will get an email address, and the email address will have a link in it, and when you click on the link, you will be brought to the report results. So now I'm just going to click Submit Report. When you click Submit Report, it's going to have the report go in the queue. You have to wait for the report to move from the queue to the results. So while we're waiting for that, I want to show you what the reports look like, the new report module we have coming out for M5. So if we go here to Reports, this is what the new report module will look like. So if I click Labels here, for example, the plus sign, and go down here to this report, and I'll type in General Collection, and then click Run Report, notice you get the results right away. You don't have to wait for it like you do the other way. There's no queue. It just comes up instantly. And another nice thing about this new report module that's going to be coming out is that it will allow us to create custom reports for you. Now, if you want this report module now, it's still in the beta version, you can email us at support@mlasolutions.com, support@mlasolutions.com. And while we're waiting for that to move to the queue as well, remember I showed you in circulation where you go to library transactions and you can send overdue notices. We also have a feature that we enable here for you if you're interested. And let me show you what that looks like. Let's see. Looks like this. So if we enable this for you, you can put, you have 3 options for each. You don't have to use all 3 because 1 or 2 options. You could put how many days before the book is due that you want an email to go out. So for example, if a book is due in 3 days, you want to remind the patron the book's coming due in 3 days. This will automatically send the book out to the patron and let them know the book is due in 3 days. You can also do a patron expiration date. A lot of people don't use that option. Most people don't have their patrons expire. You can send out overdue notices. You can send out an overdue notice when it's 1 day overdue, 7 days overdue, 14 days overdue. You could send fine notices out when the fine is 1 day past when the fine was created, 5 days past when the fine was created. So if you want this set up, it'll send out emails for you automatically behind the scenes. You don't even have to even get involved with it. So if you want this set up, you can email us support@mlasolutions.com. So now if you go back to the reports, let's see if it moved up to the queue or to the results. To see if it moved up, you have to refresh the page. So I got to click Create Report, go back to Report Results, and it moved up. You see the queue is empty, the report's up here. So to see the results, you click on the report, and there's the results of the report. So now I want to show you inventory. So to do inventory, what you do is you just click Create New Session, and then you get to the screen here. Now first let me show you how to do a partial inventory. For example, let's say you want to do an inventory of just a fiction. You would click Call Number Ranges, and then you would click Create New Call Number Range. So if I want to do just the fiction section, I would put FIC here and FIB here. Now you're saying to yourself, why don't I put FIC to FIC? The reason why is you must look at these squares as follows. The first box is equal to or greater than. The second box is less than. So I'm saying pay attention to only the items that have equal to or greater than FIC, but less than FID, which basically means just FIC. The classification is your 852H box of the holding. Okay? The prefix is the 852K field of the holding. So right now, inventory is only going to pay attention to items that have FIC and the 852H of the holding. As far as inventory is concerned, any other books don't exist. And it doesn't care if there's a value in 852K because I didn't check the prefix box. If I check the prefix box, now it's only going to pay attention to items that have FIC and 852H and items that have an 852K that's empty. And if I put a value in here, now it only cares about items that have FIC and 852H and has this exact value in 852K. So that's how you do a partial inventory. Now, to add barcodes to the inventory, you will click Barcode Sets. And there's a couple ways you can add them. One is you can add barcodes from tricorders. So you might have a portable barcode scanner that you go around, you scan the books on the shelf, and the barcodes get stored in this tricorder. You bring this tricorder to your computer, hook it up to the USB port, upload the barcodes, and then you click OK, and then it adds the barcodes to the inventory. Now, I'm a little cautious about doing it this way because if your inventory becomes corrupted and you delete those barcodes from your tricorder, you would have to go back and rescan the whole library again. Now, there is a way to get these barcodes if you wanted to, and the way to do that is you'd have to go here to download selected items. So go here, download selected items, save file, and it would create a text file that you could open, and then you could take this text file and re-import it again. But instead of doing it that way, what I prefer to do is create a notepad file, and then you can scan your barcodes into Notepad and create a different notepad file for each section of your library and save the file. That way, what you do is when you go to add the barcodes to your library inventory, you go to Add Barcodes from File, browse to where your notepad file is, select it, and then click OK, and the barcodes will be added. The nice thing about this is if the inventory becomes corrupted, all you have to do to get back to where you were is just click Create New Session, go to Barcode Sets, add barcodes from file, browse to where your notepad files are, add them back in, and you're all set to go. You don't have to go back and rescan all the barcodes in your library. And by having those notepad files, you have a backup of the barcode you scanned. Because remember, if the inventory becomes corrupted here and you have no way of getting back into it, you ain't going to have any way of recovering those barcodes you scanned. It would be horrible if you have to redo your whole inventory. So right now, I'm going to just do the inventory. I'm going to click Do Inventory. And now it's finished, and you got your statistics. And then it has these boxes. If the box is clickable, that means there's items in that box. If the box is not clickable, then there is no items in that box. Let me explain to you what each of these boxes are. Newly found, if you had items in that box, those are items that you scanned in that were marked missing but had been found. Whenever you mark an item missing, a letter M gets put in the 994A field of the holding record. So if you add an item to inventory that already has the M in the 994, inventory is going to see that and it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, this book's marked missing, but it's not missing anymore. It knows it's not missing because you couldn't have scanned it into inventory if it was still missing. So if you click on Newly Found, it's going to show you items that you found. They're not missing. And you can unmark them missing in that area. Here is the missing. The missing are items that you did not scan into inventory, but yet they're in inventory. They're in inventory, they're not loaned, but you didn't scan them in, so they're showing up as missing. Now, if you didn't scan them in and they're on loan, they won't show in missing. There's two colors you can see here in missing. One is red. Red means the item is missing and has never been marked missing. If you see a black item in here, that means the item has already been marked missing and it's still missing. And you can mark them all missing here if you want to by clicking Mark Missing Items, and if I did that, they would all turn black. Okay, that's missing. You can also get missing in here if you do scan an item in and for some reason the barcode doesn't scan right and doesn't match the barcode of the item in the system. Here you got invalid barcodes. Invalid barcodes are items you scanned in that don't match any barcode that's in the system. Here you have misplaced. Misplaced are items that you scan in, but they're not scanned in call number order. That means they're not in order on the shelf. They'll show up in misplaced. Loan shelved means that you scanned an item in that is currently on loan. For example, a librarian could have had a book returned to them and then got distracted, forgot to check the book back in, put it on the shelf. You scan the item into inventory. Inventory checks the status of the item, sees it's still on loan, so it's letting you know by showing in the loan shelf that the item's on loan and you need to return it. Out of range, oh, wait a minute, let's go to duplicate. Duplicate barcodes are holdings. You have more than one holding in the system with the same barcode. You should never have two items with the same barcode. If you do, you should call us so we can look into that and fix that. Outer range. You only get items in outer range when you're doing a partial inventory. For example, when I showed you earlier, I was doing the fiction section, that you would be scanning in items that have FIC and 852H. But let's say you scanned in an item that has GGG and 852H. Well, that item is out of range. It's not part of the fiction collection, which means you must have had a book on the fiction shelf that doesn't belong there. You need to put that book on the proper shelf. That's out of range, and then here you got your statistics. All right, so that covers everything. I want to show you one more thing that I forgot to show you earlier. Let me get there. If you ever want to share a search, for example, if I search for dogs, and I get these results. If you ever want to share a search, you can click Share Search, copy this link. And now if you emailed this to someone, always make sure when you email it to someone, you put in there to copy the link and paste it into the browser. The reason why is there's spaces sometimes in this link. It's not our fault. It's the email program you're using's fault. Some email programs, when it detects a space in the link, it will then cut off the rest of the link. And when you click on the link, it won't activate the whole link and it won't work. So if you copy the link, like I'm doing here, and then you paste it in, you're guaranteed for it to work. Now when I press enter, I get the results of that link that I wanted to share. One more thing I wanted to show you is if you want a kids site set up, this is what the kids site looks like. So when I click here, this is the kids site, and you can change the background of it. And if you want the kids site set up, you can email us, support@mlasolutions.com. All right, so that covers this training session. And if you have any questions that we didn't answer, or you want more explanation, you're always welcome to call us at tech support, or you can email us, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you for viewing this training session.